Hey, deserving listeners, it's time for me as a therapist to continue reacting to this TV show, this reality TV show called Married at First Sight. I'm skipping forward to episode 4 because I did a reaction video to the intro, and then episodes 1, 2, and 3, it's mainly just these 5 couples getting married, getting to know each other, and I thought that I didn't have much to say to it, so I skipped forward to episode 4, and let's see if anything happens here that provokes something of interest that I have to say. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see.
On the plane, we had a conversation, and Michael literally gave me an ultimatum and said that if we don't have sex during the honeymoon, then he won't want to be in his marriage. The part that's the most concerning for me is that when we get on camera, he's a totally different person. He's patient and he wants to wait for sex, and it's all on me, and it's whenever I'm ready.
That's a very concerning allegation for Michael from Mika. That she's saying that on the airplane, he said, look, if we don't have sex on the honeymoon, then this whole thing is off. Why would someone say that? Now, I know enough as a therapist to know that when I hear a story from someone, there often is another side to the story. Now, maybe the other side of the story is Michael saying, yeah, I said that because we're married and she should have sex with me. That certainly is an attitude that some people will have. However, I could also see a situation where the two of them got into an argument, and then eventually he essentially said something along the lines of, well, if we don't have sex on the honeymoon, then I don't see why we're going to move on with this relationship. Maybe there was an escalation to that point, and taken out of context, it sounds awful, but in the context of the conversation, it might have made a little bit more sense. So let's see what Michael has to say as they have this conversation.
When we get behind closed doors, it's a totally different story. So right now, this honeymoon is going pretty bad. I feel like my biggest issue with you and this marriage in general is that I feel like when we're on camera, there's like this Michael that's like put together and well thought out and Mr. Perfect, and like off camera, you're like a completely different person. To tell me that I have to have sex with you within a certain time frame or you're not going to be feeling the marriage, you looked my family in the face, you looked my friends in the face, and you told them sex is not a huge thing. Like, it's going to be on Mika's time. It's whenever she wants to do it. Like, I'm patient. I'm letting her take the lead.
You plan on having sex?
I'm planning on allowing her to take the lead on that.
So I will say that there's nothing wrong with anyone saying, look, sex is a big deal to me, and I want to have sex with my romantic spouse. That's a value to me. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with someone saying, I want to take it slow, or sex isn't a value to me. There's a wide range of preferences around that. It sounds like right away maybe there's a difference there, or they just had trouble communicating. This is part of the problem with this show. In the last reaction video, it was during the introduction when the 3 experts were deciding which of the 5 people they were going to match with the other 5 people. And from their description, it sounded like their method of matchmaking had no basis in science. And as I was watching this show, I kept cringing and wondering, wait, these are, because one of them is a doctorate level marriage and family therapist like me. Another one is a professor of sociology at University of Washington, which is my alma mater here in Seattle, a very, I think, respected person in all likelihood. And then the other person is a reverend who presumably has a lot of wisdom regarding couples. And the 3 of them talk to all these people, and then they decide who they're going to match up. And their discussions seemed highly opinion-based and surface impression-based. And so as I was watching it, I thought, wait, there is science around this. And I wasn't that familiar with it as I was watching it. So in the interim, I have been actually looking at hundreds of journal articles and research studies and opinion pieces on, and meta-analyses on the research involving how to predict whether or not 2 people will be attracted to each other and whether or not how to predict if 2 people would stay together. And there is a lot of research. And I'm going to do a whole deep dive on that. It's going to be audio only, but look out for that episode. It might already be posted. I don't know. But suffice it to say that I discovered that my impression was true, that at least the way they described their methods of matchmaking these people had no basis in science. And so right away, we have a situation between Mika and Michael of how fast one wants to have sex. Now, that's something that when you meet in real life, you negotiate, or before you get married, right? Usually. You usually talk about these things, like how fast do you want to have sex? And so let's say that Michael and Mika went on a date, and then date 3, he's like, look, we got to have sex. And she's like, whoa, I want to take it slow. And then they're like, you know what? I guess we're incompatible. And then they wouldn't have a 4th date, and they wouldn't get married. But since these 2 people have just been thrown together on random details that these 3 people just decided made them a good match, we're already running into a major incompatibility. Now, is it incompatibility that's the problem, or a conflict resolution problem? Now, I'll start sprinkling in some of the findings from the research. So we have 4 attachment styles. You have secure, and you have 3 insecure attachments. So secure attachment is when you're raised well and you trust other people and you trust yourself. You think of yourself as lovable with some flaws, and you think about other people as being trustworthy and lovable with some flaws. When you have situations in your early childhood that are difficult, you develop one of the insecure attachment styles. You have avoidant, preoccupied, and disorganized. There's other names for it, but those are the names I'm going to use. Avoidant is where you pull back from people and you say, whoa, I need to distance myself from others because they're going to hurt me. The other one is preoccupied, where you lean in and pursue and you try to make sure that people love you. You're always trying to game the system to make sure that people love you. And then you have disorganized, where you probably went through a lot of abuse and you actually have no way of navigating relationships to make yourself feel good. And so you end up feeling very fearful in relationships as you get close to people, and sometimes hateful. Disorganized is kind of rare, but it is something that happens. Listen to all my other episodes on attachment if you want more information. Anyway, so you have secure and you have the 3 insecure attachment styles. The insecure attachment styles are, scratch that. The secure attachment styles are associated with attraction. So secure people anyone is attracted to a secure person. So if you have secure attachment style, if you were raised well, and you believe in yourself, and you are realistic about your flaws, and you believe in other people, and you're realistic about their flaws, people they're attracted to you, and they tend to want to be with you. So that's one. The other thing is that there are some compatibilities among the different insecure attachment styles, which I won't go into because it's a little complicated. But they didn't, and you can test. You can do pretty simple, short tests. I can actually figure out people's attachment styles within maybe a couple minutes. Sometimes I'm wrong once we get into it later down the line, but it doesn't take me long because I'm an expert in this and I've assessed hundreds of people in this way. And so, to my knowledge, they didn't assess that dimension in anyone. Maybe they did, but they didn't show it to us. And that one detail, which would be very easy, which I'm sure the doctoral level marriage and family therapist knows about. She's one of the evaluators. I'm positive she knows about attachment styles, and I'm guessing she understands that different attachment styles tend to do well together. So one of the ways they could have gamed the system is they could have just picked 10 securely attached people, which would have made it much more likely that these 5 couples would have made it, just on that one detail that takes a couple minutes to assess. There are many other areas. Anyway, I'm off tangent. Let's get back to the show. Let's see if Michael and Mika can work out their conflicts.
I'm in no rush. It's not a demand or requirement.
And like, you literally got back to the hotel room and told me the exact opposite of that. So like, how can I make myself vulnerable, and how can I give all of myself to you when I don't even know what part of what you're saying is real and what part of what you're saying is fake? Because I've seen the side of Michael on camera and I've seen the side of Michael off camera, and they are 2 totally different people.
So she is laying out a serious allegation to him that he is two-faced, he's fake, and a sex-crazed semi-rapist on a certain level. Like, he wants to have sex with someone who doesn't want to have sex with him, that he is a pervert. There's a lot of allegations here that maybe it's true. I'd like to think that she misunderstood some things. Let's see if Michael can redeem himself here.
I came into this putting myself out there, marrying a stranger. This is something that for the rest of my life is going to be out there. I came into this with the most genuine intentions. I came into this wanting the love of my life, wanting to put in an effort, and wanting to be honest and truthful and have an honest, authentic relationship.
So I appreciate Mika continuing to talk. I wish she would pause a little bit and let him, because sometimes there's certain people who will say, well, I'm not going to talk until they stop talking. But I definitely would like to see Michael to chime in here. He's not even looking at her. There were previous moments where his parents or his family were saying, well, Mika, you got to watch out because he does tend to shut down in conflict. So it looks like he's shutting down. Now, why do people shut down? It's not because they're jerk faces. It's usually because of terror and pain. And they learned early in life. It's that avoidant attachment that I was talking about earlier. I don't know if that's his scenario. And as always, I always say I can never diagnose these people as a therapist. It'd be irresponsible to do that. It's based on very little information. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Also, subscribe if you're interested. Hit the bell if you're interested. That notifies you when I upload new videos. And comment below. Like the video. That's always nice if you like things. And also become a patron on Patreon and subscribe to the podcast on your phone because we have over 1,000 episodes in which we talk about attachment theory a lot. Anyway, so at the very least, it looks like he has a style of when in doubt, shut down. Why would people do that? Well, one of the reasons that I would speculate he has, who knows, is that early in life he learned there was no way to win in arguments. And that the only way you can survive in an argument is to shut down. It's also a way to get some power out of the situation. If you feel powerless, then the one thing you can kind of get back at the person is to not give them any words. It's like, you want me to participate in this conversation? Screw you for the way you've been treating me thus far. I'm not going to participate in this conversation. We might call that a passive aggression. Let's see if Michael can step forward and, speak his mind, defend himself or apologize or something.
Everything I said to the experts, everything that I did to get through the process, everything I did during the process is who I am. The vows that I wrote is what I meant and what I felt. One of the things that I wanted to be in being truly transparent and honest is understand who my partner is. If there's different expectations we have about intimacy, I like to know that early. I don't want to find that out month 2, and then that causes a whole nother set of problems. And for me, as I said to your parents, as I said to your mom in a private conversation, as I said to your bridesmaids, as I said to you the night of the wedding, I felt very strongly about the fact that I had no intentions of wanting to consummate the marriage. I feel the same way now. And I'm sorry if I put you in situations where you feel uncomfortable. That's not my intent.
Okay, so this is interesting. He is basically, he's talking, which is great. He's reiterating a lot of the things that he said before, and he's apologizing. But there seems to be a mismatch there. Her accusation is quite strong. I mean, the way she describes what he did, he was basically saying, you better have sex with me on the honeymoon or else. And now he's saying, look, if you want to take your time, that's fine. And I'm sorry if I gave the impression I wanted to rush things. So this is a common thing that I run into in couples therapy is you'll have two people and they'll have very different versions of what happened. A long time ago, I used to try to figure out, well, what really happened? I gave up that a long time ago because of experience and looking into research on the brain, that our memories and our experiences are emotionally interpreted. So for her, I can't imagine how scary it must be to be her, to be all these people of like, holy crap, I just married a complete stranger. What if I don't like this person? What if this person is terrible? What if this person, there's all sorts of questions. That's why people date. That's why this show, the premise of the show, I don't know. But So she could be having a lot of anxiety. She seems quite tense, and she has seemed quite tense even before walking down the aisle, which I would be very tense if I was in her shoes. And so maybe the tenseness and that anxiety, she interpreted what was happening on the plane in a way that spun it or distorted it in the direction that it was. Maybe he also had an emotional experience that was self-preservation related or something that spun it in a different direction. And they literally have a completely different memory of the same event. I've certainly seen that. However, also what I would want to know is who is distorted here, because I'm guessing that one of these people, if not both of them, have distortions. And this doesn't bode well for this marriage, by the way, that right out of the gate, they would have what seems from her anyway, so much contempt. And that's one of the things that John Gottman here in Seattle, one of the most famous researchers in couples therapy, if not the most, found to be one of the death knells of a marriage is contempt, that attitude of like, you are a terrible person. And she basically is saying that. The way that she's not saying, you know what, he's being a little pressury about the sex thing, and I don't like that, and I want to tell him. No, she's saying he is two-faced, and he completely, da 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 da. And so I just spit on the microphone. Am I going to keep that in? We'll find out. All right, let's continue watching.
Intent is just to be better than I was the day before and learn how to love you and learn how to be a good husband.
So now you're saying, oh, I just want to be a better husband. I just want to do this. I just want to do that. But I just feel like if you had the same energy off camera, we wouldn't have half the issues that we have. That's the epitome of the issue, is that when you get on camera, it's no, I want to work it out. I'm waiting, I'm being patient. If this was the Michael off camera, Mika and Michael would be happily married right.
I have no idea. I'm guessing we're going to get more data here, but there is a problem in our society in which men are pressured to define themselves in terms of their worth as a man, in terms of their sexual prowess and their sexual conquest. It is emasculating, as they say, when a woman refuses to have sex with the man. So, and it's to some extent the reverse we have for women, where they are judged if they are not chaste and not pure. And so there's already this conflict that could be influenced, at least in part, by society. Who knows? Speculation. I could see a scenario where Michael feels like, look, this is on camera. I want to come across like I'm a real man here. I've been emasculated in the past. I want to put my best foot forward. Look, we got to have sex because the cameras, they're going to ask us in the morning if we had sex. And if I didn't have sex with my wife, everyone's going to laugh at me and I'm going to feel like a loser. And I feel like a loser on the inside. I've always felt like not a real man on the inside. I know some of you listening out there, watching out there, can relate to that because you will email me about stuff like that. We put a terrible curse on everyone, regardless of gender, regarding expectations regarding sexuality, instead of allowing people to decide for themselves. I would suspect that for Michael, if he were allowed to decide for himself, that he would take his time too. I mean, what's the big deal? If you're going to be married to someone for the rest of your life, you have the rest of your life to have sex with this person. What's another couple weeks of waiting?
Again, camera, no camera, I'm learning how to talk to you generally. But I'm not going to sit there and be made to feel bad about not understanding the best way to handle a certain situation for a person I don't know.
We're married. It's 100% natural for you to want to have sex with me. It's 100% natural for me to want to have sex with you. But I'm not saying, Michael, if you don't have sex with me in a week, I'm out.
There was never a time limit of when to do this.
The time limit was the honeymoon.
Well, the time limit is that we have 7 weeks to make a marriage work.
That's just not where my head is at. I came into this with the most genuine intentions.
Okay, so now they're actually illuminating the conversation they had previously. It sounds like they're returning to a similar theme, where he's like, okay, but if we don't have sex on the honeymoon, then what there's that to me means there's something wrong with us. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with having that attitude. Usually you discover those attitudes while you date, and you decide to either stay dating because you are compatible, or you work it out, or you decide to break up. You're not forced to deal with this difference on the honeymoon. I'm concerned with the way they're talking. She seems kind of top down to him. She's kind of talking down to him a little bit. There's nothing wrong with her being upset and hurt, but there is something concerning about a pattern of making him out to be a teenager and making her out to be the adult. This is another theme that I often will look for in couples when I'm treating them is who's the overfunctioner, who's the underfunctioner. I keep hitting the microphone. Who is the person who looks like more of the parent and who looks more like the child. Definitely in this exchange, Michael looks more like the child and Mika looks more like the parent. There's nothing wrong with having that kind of back and forth if it's flexible, but if it's fixed, then there's both people do not get what they need. Obviously, the person who's treated like a teenager doesn't get the respect and the competence that they deserve. And also the parent, the person in control, doesn't get what they deserve because they have to always be the competent one, and instead of relaxing it and occasionally letting the other person take care of them. So I'm very worried about these two.
You said, if I don't have sex with you by the honeymoon, you don't know if you want to be in this marriage. Can you admit that on camera, that you said that? No. Off camera? You never said that?
No.
You never said that. Even on the plane when we talked about it and I called you out, you said you said it, but that's not what you meant. Did you say that on the plane?
What I said is this.
Yes or no? Did you say that on the plane?
Yes or no. So
okay, it's not gonna work if you can't be honest, honestly.
And this is not gonna work if you're trying to make it seem like it's one way and not the other way again.
That's what you said to me. And this is the issue. Is that off camera you say these things and now you're denying it, but I can give you facts. That's literally what just happened.
So, yeah, it hasn't escalated to a level that would be highly concerning, but it's definitely escalated to a moderate level that is moderately concerning, in that they're in an argumentative phase where it's a very frequent couples fight. You've undoubtedly been in a fight like this before, not on this topic per se, but on a similar theme of, well, you said this. No, I didn't say that. You did say that. No, I did not say that. Again, I learned a long time ago that our memories are not recorders. They're not hard drives. They are, imagine, have you ever seen a brain or seen a picture of a brain? It is a mass of goo. It is not a computer. It is a gooey, congealed mass of grossness that somehow manages to remember things. It's a miracle we remember anything to begin with, let alone remember some things accurately. So when we're emotional, we encode memories differently and we remember things differently. So it's quite possible that for him, he doesn't remember saying that, and for her, she absolutely remembers him saying that. Who was right? I've learned in couples therapy, let's just put that aside. Okay, Mika, you totally remember him saying that. You might be right. Michael, you totally remember not saying that. You might be right. What do we need to do to move forward here? Mika, do you want him to apologize for giving the impression that he was going to pressure you to have sex? Is that what you're looking for? Yeah, I want him to apologize. Okay, Michael, apologize to her, give her some great, okay, Michael, what do you need from Mika? Well, I want Mika to understand that I'm not a terrible person and that I'm not some sort of pervert who wants to have sex with people who don't want to have sex with me. I'm more flexible than I think she thinks. Okay, Mika, can you understand that he is more flexible than you might have thought in terms of when you were triggered? Can you give him some grace in that way? Let's bridge the gap. But they're not doing that, so I'm worried about them. Do they ever think about, so the whole premise of this show is that they have professionals. They have a marriage and family therapist who matches them and then just abandons them. Does she ever show back up and help them? Maybe she does. Maybe that's the whole reason why she's on the show.
That's what took place. This is not my opinion. These are the things that you said to me.
So the other part of matchmaking that I learned in my research is that it's very, very hard to match people up using any scientific method or any method at all. It's nearly impossible to figure out what two people are actually going to fit well together. There are some things that will generally work, like the secure attachment thing, but it's very hard. Primarily because you cannot predict how people actually will behave to each other when they actually meet. So they could have all the different markers of a couple that will work out. But once they actually meet, you can't predict the sequence of behaviors that will result in them developing contempt or love for each other. So that's that. It's like trying to predict the weather, right? It's like, well, you know, we can look at all the factors and think, well, it's probably going to rain tomorrow, or it's probably going to rain next month on this day. But, you know, there's too many factors because this comes in and then this comes in, and we just don't know. It's the same when it comes to people. You just don't know how two people are going to fit together. So, for example, what if Michael had worded it a little differently? Or what if they had just had sex that first night? Or they went to third base and he thought, well, you know, this looks like it's going in the right direction. You know, whatever. There was just like something that went a little differently, and they never had this fight on the plane, and they didn't run into any other issues, and then they'd be in love, and they'd have more goodwill, and then the next fight they got in, they would have something to stand on. Right now, these two people barely know each other. They have nothing to stand on. They have no goodwill to stand on to help them to help offset the terrible negativeness that is happening right now.
I don't know how everyone is at such a different place in their relationship, and I like that we're taking things slow, but it does just like...
You're just like trying to reach for my hand, like, please,
no, I mean, we gotta do things how we're gonna do things.
Alright, not to make this totally awkward, but are you gonna still talk to me while I wash my face?
I see, most of these husbands like treating their wives really well and like taking care of them in a way, different ways, whether it be a sign of physical affection or helping them with their suitcase or whatever the case may be. And he's treating me like a friend, and that's fine, but I feel kind of lousy right now.
So this show is so different from the other shows, reality TV shows that you've been asking me to watch, because they're thrown in. So right now they're in a conflict. She's like, oh, he's treating me like a friend. He seems to be kind of rejecting me. There's not a lot of affection. The problem with this show is that they're already married. On the other shows, like 90 Day Fiancé or Love is Blind or something, they have these conflicts before they get married. It does kind of create this tragedy of these three yahoos who didn't use science to match these two up, and they're just looking at each other like, we wouldn't have chosen to date each other, and now we're married? This sucks.
No, I had high hopes for this, like going in and stuff like that, and like to see some couples that are just seem like right off the bat they're like so close and stuff like that.
We can't go based off what other people are doing. But I mean, it doesn't deter me, and it doesn't deter my efforts and my ability to communicate with you. And
well, right? No, I'm glad you say that, because if I'm quite honest with you, it did kind of shake my confidence, I guess you'd say, in like where we are.
For Mindy, right? She is potentially revealing that she has a schema that she isn't good enough. She has a attitude, probably from the way she was treated in the past, particularly when she was young, that she's not good enough as a human being. There's a lot of people watching right now might be able to relate to that, of this schema of just like, yeah, if people knew the real me, they wouldn't really like me. And there's a lot of people walking around with that schema due to being treated that way as a child, that they just internalized that notion and it became fact for them.
You don't have to cuddle with me. I'll stay over on this side. That's cool. Except, yeah, you do have to cuddle with me.
I'm not cuddling with oil.
there seems to be a dynamic building where she's the gross one and she wants to cuddle with him. One of the things in the research findings that I did find is that mutual attraction is an important predictor of attraction and whether or not people stay together. And that people will evaluate each other, both men and women, in heterosexual and gay relationships. They will want to be with someone who is of the same attractiveness as themselves. They will stay together with someone who is of the same attractiveness as themselves.
I'm walking around our hotel right now, just in the hallways, and I don't want to go back to that room because he told me I'm not building any kind of attraction to you, and what do you want me to do about that? And I tell him, well, I guess this isn't going to work out. And he says that's not the response I was hoping for. What?
Okay, so from her account, he says, I'm not attracted to you. What do you think we should do about it?
I'm, can't even say I'm hurt. I'm actually, like, I think it's quite funny. I'm kind of just thinking, is this guy? What did I marry? This was probably a really bad idea.
Wow, that was a roller coaster. We already have two couples, Mika and Michael and Mindy and Zach, that I'm extremely concerned about. So tune in next time when we continue this journey with this show, Married at First Sight. Thank you all out there for suggesting I watch this show. I certainly have a lot to say about it. And let's see if I have things to say next time. And please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.